Welcome to Passive Aggressive Income. This program may contain strong language. The content may not be suitable for audiences under the age of 17. We understand many of our listeners may not agree with all of our personal viewpoints. We in no way, shape, or form mean to be offensive to anyone. Our show notes will provide all of our source material included for each episode. Now let's get passive aggressive.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Passive Aggressive Income Podcast. We're your hosts, Lexi and Mims. We have taken a step back from the real estate topic and we've been moving on. So last week, if you didn't listen, I talked all about my history, views, and future plans with education. There's some big news in there, so I recommend listening to it if you haven't already. And because it ended up being so much, we ran out of time. And this week, we're going to be discussing Mims and her whole educational background, views, and any plans and things that she may have done differently. Super excited to get your insight, Mims, and learn more about you.
Well, I am always happy to talk about myself. So here we go.
I think that's why we do podcasts.
For sure. Yeah. Well, I want to start off by saying that I think that in high school, they don't teach us how to become financially free, and they don't teach us how to think that there's more options besides going to college. It's just basically, in my mind, and I know this isn't going to be a widely spread type of thinking, but I think they are just creating worker bees and people that are compliant and just like go through life, just going through life. And I think that they should teach how to make money legally, in different ways besides just having that 9 to 5, and how to create your own business and how to become an entrepreneur and how to thoroughly do your taxes, like just things that like really make you smarter in life rather than I don't even remember half the things I learned in math. So like what good did that do me? I don't know. Um, but yeah, that's my rant that I'm going to start off with. I'm going to go into my educational background. So I started off going to Mount Mary University in Milwaukee, right when I was 18. After I graduated, I just headed off to college. So I didn't have like a gap year. I just straight away went into more education. I definitely was not mentally prepared for more education. My brain already hurt from all those years in high school, and I wasn't mature enough to go. And I went to Milwaukee on scholarships, and that's why I chose that school, is because I had a lot of scholarships for writing and because I was in a low income family and all sorts of things. So that narrowed it down for which school I was going to. And I did not consider the fact that being in an all girls Catholic school was really going to fuck with my mind. And
Oh
it
my
really
God.
much, it did. And I lived in the dorms. So I had to make new friends and didn't really like the whole experience on that. And I had a lot of friends that stayed back home. I mean, it's only a 2.5, or it's like a 2 hour drive. But I didn't have a car. So if I wanted to go back home, I'd have to get picked up. And how many friends and family, go back and forth to Milwaukee as often. I had a few good friends, and I had a boyfriend at that time that made that drive, but not a lot of people do. So it wasn't the best decision for me. So then I did 1 year of that, and I went in thinking that I wanted to go get my social work degree. And it was my first class, and the teacher was like, we're severely understaffed and you come across a lot of bad situations and there's a lot of work to be done. And I was like, well, damn, I really want to do good in my life, but I if you guys haven't listened to our first episodes where we dive into who we are and where we've come from and all that, I had a really shitty childhood. And I always promised myself that I was gonna have a good adulthood if I can do it, like circumstances are gonna arise and that's gonna be out of my hands. But what I'm capable of doing, I'm gonna do in order for me to be happy. And just sitting in that class, I'm like, this is not something that's gonna make me happy. So I changed my majors and I went to Fox Valley Tech in Appleton. So I was back home. I changed it to paralegal studies. And yeah, I got my degree in it. I got my associates. And I'm super happy that I did it. It was a long journey for me to get my degree. I I'm not one of those people that need to go to school. Like you said, you discovered yourself and you had a lot of things that you enjoyed being like in a public setting. I did a lot of my school online. I
Mhm.
did not want to go to school with other people. I'm not one of those types of people that really likes to make new friends. A lot of people are kind of surprised when I say that I don't like to like be around a lot of people, and like school settings like really just are not appealing to me unless I'm doing it on my own. And yeah, I don't know why people get so surprised when I say that. Maybe it's because I have like 1,000 things that put me like out into the world, but I just don't.
It's
And
easy to record a podcast in your home versus like going out and actually interacting with people. I totally agree with that. I mean, I'm a little bit introverted by nature, and it can be really tiring and taxing to like be out in that kind of setting sometimes.
for sure, yeah. So I'm going to talk about more of my educational background. So on my paternal family side, I am third generation to go to college, and my grandmother, my paternal grandmother, was a teacher in Chicago. So she was, education was her thing. My father has his master's degree. I don't know what, so don't ask me. And I haven't kept up with their educational levels. On my maternal family side, I am the first generation to go to college. So my grandmother immigrated here, thank you. And she was a house cleaner. My mother emigrated here and she was a nanny, and then she became other things, but without degrees. And then I had to figure out how to apply for FAFSA. I had to figure out how to pick a school that was good for me. I had to figure out different grants that were outside of the grants that were provided by that particular school, just different things that I could do and how to make myself more appealing to schools as far as applications and all that. So I had to figure that out all on my own. And like I mentioned before, I don't have a great relationship with my mother, so she did not willingly help me with any of that stuff. So that was just like another hurdle that I had to go through. My father did help me with a little bit of money for the cost for Mount Mary. That was a lot of money. It was private, it was Catholic, and it was an all-girls school. So those
Yeah,
are like the
that's
most
crazy.
expensive type of schools. And I have loans from that. Luckily, I only have $7,000 in loans for that, just because I got, like I said, a lot of grants and loan, and I obviously got a loan and scholarships for that. So it wasn't as much as it could have been, but after I went to the tech, I paid all of that out of pocket, out of my own
Mhm.
pocket. So it's quite the difference
Yeah.
because I actually have a degree from a school that I have paid in full, and I don't have a degree from the school that I originally went to that I owe money to. So that's just crazy to me, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I think that really just like, I don't know, puts it into perspective how this is not like the one traditional route is like just going to university and getting a 4-year degree is not the only option. And like you said, you have a degree and you
Yeah.
don't have any loans from it, and that's amazing. And trying to picture you going to an all-girls private Catholic school is like mind-blowing to me. And I know that, like, you're 18, you're trying to figure things out, you don't really
Yeah.
know what your plan is in life, but and it's easy to look back in retrospect and be like, wow, that was not the decision for me.
Yeah.
But, sometimes you have to go through it to understand, like, this is not what I want to be doing with my life. And you might have an idea like going into social work, and then the reality is, I mean, thankfully you figured that out after your first class.
Seriously, it
But
was like I sat down and she said like the first sentences. I'm like, oh hell no.
what have I done?
Yeah. Yeah. I have a passion for law and justice, and obviously a lot of people that have listened to this podcast know that I have another podcast, and that's a true crime podcast. So I love that whole world and just everything that comes with it. And that's what made me decide on getting my paralegal degree. I don't intend on continuing my education. My husband always half jokes that I should become a lawyer. In theory, that sounds like fun. Like, I truly think it would be a lot of fun, but I know the hours attorneys work and I can't do it. Like, I just cannot do it. And the type of attorney that I would want to become would be criminal or maybe even civil. And I wouldn't do like probate or real estate or anything like that because that's just so dry. So I would want to do things that are very involved, and I just don't have the mental capacity to do that. I really don't.
Yeah, it's good to be realistic about what you have time and space for, and understanding what you need as far as work-life balance goes. And
Yeah.
yeah, there are things that I've thought I was like, oh, that could be fun. And then realistically, I'm like, I'm not willing to do that. Like, even when I
No.
was considering going back to school now, I'm like, I cannot put myself through 4 years of school again. That is not an option.
Right. Yeah.
But I could see you being a great lawyer. Like, I could see that.
A lot of people can, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
don't push me.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
That's totally fair.
Yeah. So the company that I work for right now is amazing. My position is a piece of cake and the work environment is top notch. So I didn't get my degree in the position that I am in right now. So that just goes to show that a lot of the things that you think that are going to happen in your life are like just laughable, because it's just you plan for something and then something else happens, right? And I found a really great job that has nothing to do with why I went to school, has really nothing to do with my interests and passions. Like, there's nothing about it that makes me feel like, yay, I'm going to go to work or anything like that. But the way that the company and my position is structured, I actually don't mind going into work, and I don't mind doing this for a very long time. So I'm completely happy with work just being work, and then having my outside hobbies and creative outlets be what I invest myself in as a person.
Yeah, I relate to that so much. I think that's such a good piece of advice. And I know we touched on it a little bit in our last episode, but work doesn't have to be like the one true thing that you love to do. And like, your work
Mine
doesn't
too.
need to be your identity, you know?
Right.
And you can find jobs that don't require school, and feel, really warmly towards and really
Yeah.
enjoy. And you can make money in other ways. I mean, that's why we have this podcast too, is talking about passive income and real estate and cash flow and side hustles and all of the things that we're going to be getting into in the future. And just because you may or may not have a degree, or you may or may not be using your degree, doesn't mean that there's not other ways to be successful and happy in life too.
I agree. Yeah, very good points. So let's talk about education and work in that field. So once I earned my degree in paralegal studies, I was already working at a law firm as a receptionist. And that's kind of why I wanted to go that route and getting my degree. It was a really nice work environment. However, it was small. So there were only two attorneys that they already had their own paralegals. So there was no position for me. I either had to stay a receptionist or find a different job. And that's what I did because I got my degree for it. So I interviewed for different positions in the area for paralegal, And oh my gosh, one time I went to go interview at a law firm. I'm not going to name which one, and they're actually under investigation right now. So that's how bad it was. But I went to go sit down, and the attorney was not there to interview me. The paralegal was there to interview me, which was red flag number one. And then she closed the door and was whispering to me how the office was bugged. And I'm like, should I even be here right now? Like, this is an office, right? And she was asking me, a fresh paralegal, well, not even, I wasn't even a paralegal yet. I just got my degree. And she was asking me, well, should I even be doing this type of work? And isn't this like not something that I should be doing? Like, shouldn't the attorney be doing this? We had a full-blown conversation of how fucked up the job was
Oh
for
my
her.
God, in your
And she,
interview.
yeah, and she was the only one there. And I'm like, first of all, you shouldn't even be interviewing me. Like, that's red flag number one. I feel so bad for you. And yeah, she was the one who was leaving and needed to replace.
That
So
is crazy that they had the person leaving doing the interview. Like,
how
she's obviously
stupid are
dipping. Like,
you?
she doesn't care.
No,
That's
exactly.
crazy. Wow.
So that was like, I'm like, damn, do I really want to do this? Like, this is a lot. But I mean, they're not, attorneys aren't all bad. And it's not always the case like that. So then I finally got offered the position as a paralegal for a workers' compensation attorney. I worked there for about 4 months, and I realized why there was an open position, that the part-time paralegal that was currently working there already made a comment to me when I first started, and he said, "We will see how long you last." And he was right. I knew it was not a good fit for me when I was in just a few weeks. So, and he didn't say that like, "Oh, we'll see how long you last." It was just like, "We'll see." There's a lot of girls that come in here and come and go and blah, blah, blah. And I mean, he was right. It was like terrible.
Wow.
The
What
attorney
an
was
adventure.
over, yeah. The attorney was overbearing, down to the fact that she told me I couldn't wear my black slip-on shoes because they look like boat shoes. They literally were just like canvas shoes that were slip-ons, and she was like, "You can't wear them here." I'm like, "Oh, okay."
I
So
don't
that's how,
take
like,
well to people telling me what I can and cannot do with my body. So,
right, exactly. And it wasn't like I was wearing like low cut shirts or
right.
mini skirts, or like I wasn't professional. I just didn't have
The
like
exact
fancy
aesthetic they
shoes.
were going for. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So the hours were long and her attitude was complete shit. I was really put off from being a paralegal and doing that type of work. So then I just never went back. So I had a short stint in paralegal work, and I just, the first few experiences were put a bad taste in my mouth. And I'm sure that I could have found a different attorney to work under, and it would have been a completely different story, but that's just how life goes, right?
Right.
So, what are my views on education? I kind of talked about them before, but I'll go into a deeper dive. In my opinion, going to college right off the bat from high school is just kind of a waste of time. You don't know who you are at that age. When you're 18, you still don't know what your passions are, and you don't have much of a life experience. As a social experience, I'm sure it's great for those people that really like to get out there and meet new people. Yeah, for sure. It's really awesome. And you make connections and you network and all that type of stuff. And that's really awesome. However, for leveling up your life, I don't entirely agree with. And I don't think it's like your only route. That's what I'm trying to get to, is it's not your only route. I don't think that college is a waste of time, especially if you know what you are going to do and you're sure what your degree is going to be. I think that you should totally do that, and you should totally educate yourself and be super successful and have all the tools in that. So you definitely do it. However, there are other options after high school that are out there that they're not really talked about. So working somewhere for a year after graduating to have downtime after the schooling after that schooling can offer time to gather up money and to give your brain a break, and then learn more about yourself in order to make a better decision when you pick a major. You go and work somewhere for a little bit of time. It doesn't have to be for a full year. It just can be something for you to get money to pay for your loans or whatever you're going to do, and just figure out what you want to do. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Mhm.
Or like Lexi said in the other episode, going to travel and meeting new people and having different experiences. If you're able to do that, definitely do that, because the older you get, the more responsibilities you get. So traveling isn't always something that you're able to do. So you might as well do it when you can and when you have money.
Exactly. Yeah. Take the time when you have few responsibilities and you're okay with traveling on a budget. And
Yes. Yes.
yeah, I mean, that's like I sort of took that advice for myself a little bit later in life, but after I got my 4-year degree, I ended up taking 6 months to travel around Europe and Southeast Asia, and we were just scraping by on our daily budget, but I wouldn't trade that experience for the world. And I'm really glad that I did that before going into like a full-time career. And I think it would have been beneficial for me to do before going into college too. So, but I think it's important to try and take some time before settling into either a super big commitment like a degree or into a career, and just take some time for yourself and figure out like what it is that you want out of life.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. So then there is the military that a lot of people don't like to talk about. This is a valid and a great option for people who need structure in their lives, and people shouldn't sleep on this option. They pay for your schooling. Yeah, you have to go and sign up for however long that you have to sign up for because it's a contract, but a lot of people come out and they have great respect. They have structure in their lives. They learn a whole bunch of things, and then they get careers out of them once they're done. And I think it's something that people should consider if they are interested in that life. Then there are apprenticeships for trade jobs like electricians, welders, plumbers, etc. All of these jobs are great and they pay a higher amount because of the hard work that comes with it. So I know that my husband, he's an electrician, so he makes a lot of good money because of that specific trade. And a lot of people don't think that to do that type of thing, they just think, okay, I'm going to go to school for business or education or whatever. But apprenticeships and trade jobs are highly sought out for, and there's a lot of demand for construction. So it's definitely something to consider as well.
Not to mention things like that aren't going away. You're always going to need electricians, you're always going to need construction workers. That's a good option where you know you're going to have job security.
Right. My husband got his business degree and then he then started an electrical apprenticeship, and he's learned so much in that trade that is in high demand. Now he's able to work for himself and make his own hours, take jobs he wants to work on in a field that has a significant amount of work out there. So it if you go that route, there's nothing wrong with it. And then lastly, starting your own business is another great route. I know girls in high school that had a passion for art. So they started a small business from their crafts, and then they blossomed into something great. I know a girl that has her own vintage shop, and I know another girl that crochets and like makes a whole bunch of clothing because of that. And it's super cool to see people being creative and choosing that route after high school instead of doing the whole 9 to 5 type of thing. Like they're working for themselves, and that's something that should be taught.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that it's something in high school we're sort of set up to follow a path where like they give you resources to like take your ACTs and
Mm-hmm.
do all of these kind of things, and it's a very traditional like form in life, and maybe like the military is talked about a little bit, but like yeah, starting your own business or going and getting an apprenticeship, things like that aren't really like discussed as actual options.
Right.
And I don't remember the full context of this like presentation, but I remember my senior year being shuffled into the auditorium, and they were like it was the whole like senior class, and they were talking about like what the future holds for all of us, and it was getting to the point where people had to like make decisions about if they were going to be applying for schools or they're going to join the military and things like that. And I remember they had us all stand up, and they're like, if you're going to get a 4-year degree, sit down. And so I sat down. And if you're going to get a like 2-year degree, sit down. And so then more people sat down. And if you're going to, I don't remember like what the criteria was, but people who like hadn't really figured it out or were like maybe planning on taking a gap year or just working for a little bit, they left them standing. And it was so alienating. I don't remember what the purpose of this was, but I remember like looking around and these people are like standing there awkwardly because they're not following the traditional route that people like society expects us to follow after high school. And I don't remember what the purpose of that was, but I just remember thinking like that is so wrong, and like there
Yeah.
are other options out there,
Yeah.
and people just look down on other options. And I think that honestly those are really smart decisions for people that aren't jumping into something that they don't know what they're getting into, like what the reality of it is.
Right. Yeah, that makes me really mad because I feel like that was like calling them out and being like,
Yeah.
"Well, why aren't you like get your shit together, like, and it's just infuriating because not everybody A has the resources for it. B, not everybody has the mental capacity to go on to 4 more years of
Right.
the 4 years they are already going through. And some people they have they are put into adult situations really fast right out of high school, and they have to work to help support their family. And I feel like that's a shitty thing to do,
Yeah.
as far as adults putting down kids that don't have life figured out, and why should they?
Right. And without any context, too. It's just like, oh, these are the people that aren't following the same paths as everyone else. It's like, what? What are we doing here? Yeah, that
Yeah.
really sat with me well.
Yeah, no. And it's just like kind of like going back to what I said, is just they want to create worker bees, and the people that don't want to be worker bees are considered weird, or they're just like, I don't know. I don't know the stigmas because I don't pay attention to them, but they're considered else, and I don't get it because we're pretty fucking cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I think like following a non-traditional path in life is something that I personally seek out. So,
Yeah. So what would I do differently? It is hard to say if I would have done things differently. In a way, I wish I would have talked to my paternal grandmother and my dad more about their real estate experience growing up, and started my real estate journey right at 18. I have a friend who I'm going to have come on the podcast eventually, who started at 18. And I'm like, damn, you're setting yourself up so well right now. And I just wish that, because we talk about this with Jake's cousins and nieces and nephews that are hitting that mark of 18, and he always says, well, I mean, if you ever want to talk about buying your first duplex, let me know, because this is the right time for you. And they're like, no, I don't know about that. And this kid that I met, I'm like, I'm only a few years older than you, but man, if I started when you started, I would be sitting pretty right now. And not that I'm not, but it would be a different ball game. So I wish I would have done that, and I wish I would have known that that was more of an option back then, because my life would have been a little bit different. But on the other hand, if I didn't go to Mount Mary, if I wouldn't have gone through some of the darkest times in my life, which made me come back, and I got clean from drugs after that, and I got my associate's degree. So all of that really paved the way for different things that happened in my life. And if I didn't get my associate's degree, I wouldn't have learned everything that I did, and figure out that working for an attorney and their workload isn't all that. Then I wouldn't have found my previous job in property management that taught me everything that I know and molded me into the property owner I am today. So everything to me has a ripple effect. And to me, if I didn't do things that I did in my life, I wouldn't be here working my, part-time job, living my best life, having a million hobbies that give me life and a super hot fucking husband. Like, come on. I'm sitting pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely.
So my final answer is that I would not have changed a thing. Everything that I went through, whether they were, terrible, terrible things that I went through, things that I had to come back from, things that I look back and I'm like, damn, that's really embarrassing. But, you know, there were stepping stones with hard lessons for me to learn. Now that I am here and now that I am present, I know that what I want to do with my life, and I am sure there is more that I need to grow into. And the more that I age and the more that I mature, things will only evolve for me. But that's just life. If you're not constantly evolving, if you're not constantly figuring things out and learning who you are and shedding your old skin, and then you're not, participating in your life. And I think that a year from now, my life is gonna be different, and that's totally fine with me. As long as it's good, then I'm cool with that.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest takeaways from this episode and the previous episode where I talk about my background with education is just that it's okay for life to be non-linear. You don't need to
Mhm.
follow a specific path. It's always okay to rediscover yourself. It doesn't matter what age you're at. You can go back to school. You can try out a new hobby. You can start a business. I think that's life. Life is messy, and
Mm.
you don't need to put yourself in situations that are going to cause financial hardship or that you feel pressured into when you're young just because that's what society says to do. And I think that, we can be reevaluating our lives, our what we want out of life, periodically, and make changes, and that's totally okay.
Yeah, you just took me to church right there. No, I love that. Yeah, if you aren't constantly figuring yourself out, then you're stuck in the same old. And who wants to be the same old person that you were at 18 years
Oh my
old?
God.
I don't like her.
No, me either. Me
I
either.
was making messy decisions and I was not my best self. And I right now, I'm not saying that I'm my best self because I have so much more to grow. But man, I don't know her. She was something else. She was a different beast,
Mhm.
and here I am. I'm fully clean and I don't drink anymore. And I have, thank you. And um, have all these things going for me as far as hobbies and a really good workplace environment and things that I've always wanted in my life. And I'm here, I've arrived. So
Yes.
thank you to pass me because you had to go through what you went through. And thank you to new me because I have yet to discover things and I'm willing to do it. So
Yes, awesome. I am smiling so big right now. That just makes me so happy. And I feel a lot of the same sentiments. It feels good to be able to look back, and no matter if some of the choices we made we don't necessarily agree with now, it made us who we are today. And I think we're both in places in life that we are really proud of, and we've grown a lot and we'll continue to do so throughout life. And yeah, we have had businesses, we have real estate, we've gotten educations and the various forms that they look like, and we have a pretty great podcast, if I say so myself.
yes, I entirely agree. All right. Well, that is it for education. Next week, we're going to have something completely different. So you're going to have to stay tuned for that because we got a lot of things that we want to talk about, a lot of really interesting things that you're going to want to hear. So make sure to tune in. We're on Spotify and we are on YouTube. Check out our Instagram and our Facebook because we post a lot of cool shit. So thank you for being here with us on this journey.
Yes, thank you guys so much. We're going to be jumping around talking about all sorts of stuff. So make sure to stay tuned. We release episodes every Monday morning. So we will see you next week for another one.
Yay. Bye.
Bye. Passive Aggressive Income was written, recorded, edited, and produced by co-hosts and creators Mims and Lexi. We truly want to thank our listeners, collaborators, friends, and family that continuously support us for all the love we receive. If you enjoy our show, please give us a glowing rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
Also follow us on Facebook and Instagram to see what we are up to. For any inquiries, please email passiveaggressiveincome2023@gmail.com. Episodes of Passive Aggressive Income are available wherever you listen to podcasts, so make sure to subscribe and like us on your favorite streaming platform.